I wasn't lying. I'm not a fake fan. Okay, I like Chucky. No one was accusing me of that. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. In this week's video, I thought it'd be fun to do a couple of littler projects. Some things that I've been meaning to get to for a while, but I just haven't gotten around to them. And, I thought this would be the week. So these are things that I purchased a while ago with the intention of giving them a makeover. And now it's gonna happen. So let's just hop right into it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the subject of our first makeover is this little weird baby keychain phone charm thing that I got literally 3 years ago when I first started getting into doll customizing. I bought a couple of these for, obviously to give them little makeovers, and I just never got to it. And it was very difficult to get her little clothes off. I cut out a lot of the struggle, and it was even more difficult to take her face off because I discovered the type of plastic that it's made out of is the type that acetone can melt. So I had to be very careful, and in the end I think some of the paint sort of melted into her face a little bit, but once she's all finished you can't really tell. For these makeovers, I decided to go with a theme, so I'm predictable, alright? The new season of What We Do in the Shadows is out. I just started rewatching True Blood with my husband because I'm really drinking my loving vampires juice right now, and so I decided to make little vampires for both of these makeovers. For her, I decided to give her these big old blue eyes with this sort of like graphic liner and very sort of angular short brows. I thought they were cute. For her mouth, I decided to give her some classic black lipstick and, some little fangs here in a second. I was a little bit worried about doing her mouth because the lips on this doll's sculpt are like non-existent. But I think I made it work. I think I'm just really into these like little chubby faced face molds right now. Like I feel like I've done a couple of, dolls sort of like this, and I just think they come out so cute. So maybe I'll try to find more things like this. I decided to go ahead and blush her face. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it like super simple, but I think the blushing really helped, especially on dolls like this where the nose is so undefined. Throwing some blush on that bad boy really helps bring it out. So like I said, I'm really drinking my vampire juice lately. So I'm curious, like what's your guys' favorite piece of vampire media? I would love to know because it might give me some doll ideas. And now that her face is finished, I'm sealing it and I can move on to her little outfit. So I'm using this old purse that I got secondhand a while ago to sort of like harvest it for pleather parts, and I'm using the sort of black pleather on the strap to make her little outfit. I sort of futzed it around for a little bit to figure out how I want it to go, and I just am gluing it in layers around her body to sort of make a little dress out of it. Putting hot glue directly on her butt crack was very funny, I'm not gonna lie. They gave this doll the most intense butt crack sculpt. I don't know why they made that decision for her. Honestly, kind of rude. Once I have all the leather glued how I want it, I took this piece of like sheer ribbon that I got off of something that I bought a while ago that I've just been waiting to use, and I decided that it would make like a really cute like poncho, but it also sort of gives the illusion like maybe she's wearing fishnets on her arms, because I call this a doll. Like, it has neck articulation, but that's the only point on its body that can move. So I had to sort of get creative to work around the lack of joints. I decided to wrap some jewelry wire around her neck to sort of create a little choker and add like a little bit of a difference in texture, and also to sort of keep the ribbon around her neck, held down so it didn't stick out weird. And I'm just adding some embroidery thread around her wrist to sort of create a little bracelet because I want to make it out of wire, but it was way too small to get that to work. Luckily she came with shoes because I definitely do not have any shoes that are this teeny tiny. So I'm just keeping it simple and painting the little shoe she came with black. Once those are all dry, I can pop them on her little feet and I can start working on her hair. So luckily I already had some leftover black yarn wefts brushed out that luckily don't have to go to waste now. It was kind of difficult to do this because she has this little hook sticking out of the top of her head, and I wanted to keep it because I want to use it later, so it got a little weird and sticky for a while. And speaking of that little hook, I am reattaching the little strap that she came with to, be able to make her a functional thing. I struggled relentlessly with getting this jump ring closed. I don't understand how people make it look so easy. I feel like I used to be better at it, and I don't know what happened. I suck so bad at closing jump rings now. Though after I was done with this, I immediately reopened it because I remembered I have earring hooks. So I decided to make her a little earring because I have a second one. So if you want to see me transform the other one in this pair, I'm going to do that on TikTok at some point probably. Now the subject of our next makeover is this little garden gnome that I found at the Dollar Tree back in like April when they had all of their sort of like spring gardening stuff out. And I just really wanted to make a goth garden gnome. Like, that's been something that I've wanted for a while, and I don't know why I wanted that so badly, but I finally have made that come true for myself, I guess. I decided to swap out his white beard for a gray beard because I want it to be darker, but I didn't want to go like pure black because I want his shirt to also be black. I didn't want it to get lost on it. And by painting it gray, I was able to sort of get more tonal variations in his hair to make it more interesting. And it feels a little weird saying this. I think my sort of goal when designing this garden gnome and like repainting his beard and stuff was like, I guess trying to make it a little dilfy. It's like, what would a goth dilf garden gnome look like? And this is what I ended up doing. For the hair, I'm sort of doing a wash of darker gray to, like I said, sort of bring out the sculpt a little more because he had this beautifully sculpted beard hair and stuff. And if you just paint something a flat color, you lose a lot of the, definition of it. I remember one time I was really into watching Face Off, the like special effects competition show that was on Sci-Fi like years ago. And there's something that they said on that show that has stuck with me to this day. One of the judges was talking about how you can save a bad sculpt with a good paint job, but you can ruin a good sculpt with a bad paint job. And I keep that in mind whenever I'm painting anything that is three-dimensional. So here you can see I am dry brushing his beard with a even lighter gray to sort of bring out the ridges, and this is the part that really started bringing it together for me. And I also decided to add a few lighter streaks sort of at the corners of his mouth and sort of around his temples because like when your hair starts graying and like turning white, it sort of happens more concentrated in certain spots, and I just thought it would add more, you know, interest to his look. I do end up toning it back a bit, but you know, they're still there by the end. Right now I'm painting his belt the same color as his pants, but I do end up changing that later because I do not like how it looks, so don't get too attached to that. Now I am painting his shirt black, and this part was very satisfying because this is where like the mess starts, you know, getting sharpened up a bit, and my vision is coming into focus. It feels really weird to say my vision, my artistic vision, when I'm making a goth garden gnome. I don't think that's like a peak visionary artist moment, but you know, it was very fun, so. It was a little bit funky trying to figure out where his hand stopped and his sleeve started, because I think they make these things with some sort of like plaster mold or something. I don't really know, but parts of it get a little bit difficult to read what actually is what part of his body. I'm repainting his boots black because, like I said, the paint job on this thing originally was very spotty, so there was a lot of little, you know, blank areas that needed to be covered up. And this is another part that was a little bit difficult to figure out where his boots started and his pants began, because there isn't really anything, you know, hard line delineating those two things from each other. Really getting a lot of shots of gnome ass. You're welcome, I guess. Now I'm getting the belt the color I want it to be. So I decided to match it to his hat instead of his pants, because I felt like having the brightest color just being on top of his head sort of like screwed up the balance. For his skin, I decided to go with this warm pinkish gray color because, once again, this is a vampire themed video, alright? So he's not just goth, he's a little vampire, so he's among the undead, so he's gray. And also, I didn't feel like pulling out a different color palette, so I just made things work with the colors I already had on my palette, because mix up a fresh new skin tone, it would have gotten way contaminated. So it also gives him sort of like deep gnome vibes, if you're familiar with that. Like, I don't know, I know them from D&D, where it's like the gnomes that live underground and like get up to shenanigans. I love how it's like in D&D, it's like, oh, you live in a cave? You're like the evil version of the things that don't live in a cave. Like, can you live in a cave and like just be chill? Like, if you live in a cave, you're just automatically assumed to be getting up to nefarious things, and I think that's kind of rude. People are probably gonna come at me that like are more familiar with the creatures of D&D and are gonna be like, no, Randy, that's not true. There's plenty of good things that live in caves, and I just don't know because I'm ignorant. Anyway, now I'm working on his face. So I gave him his little eyebrows. I'm painting in his eyeballs. I decided to give him blue eyes as well, just to be a little bit like matchy-matchy. Though I think I probably could have given him red eyes, and it might have like pulled the color palette together a little bit better, and maybe brought a little bit more like attention to his face. But, you know, I just got done watching Underworld, and those vampires have blue eyes in there, so I think I was thinking about that. And you know, sometimes it's not about making the most correct color choices, it's about making the color choices that make you happy, especially if it's for something that's just gonna sit in your office and it's mostly just for you and, you know, all the people on the internet that you're showing it to. But my opinion matters more, okay? I have to look at this thing more often. Now I'm getting in his finishing touches. I'm adding his fangs. I'm going to add some little metallic embellishments here in a second. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you watched this far and you liked this video, consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, and if you don't want to miss any of them, click that little button, you know where it is. And if you like this type of video that's a little bit different than my, usual doll stuff, go ahead and leave a comment, let me know, or leave a like, all that sort of stuff. It's hella cool. I'm on TikTok now if you want to see the random stuff I post on there. Also, the link to my store will be in the description if you're interested in purchasing some of the stuff that I've made on this channel. There's a lot of things in there. And here is my little dude all finished. I am so happy with him. I'm so excited to put him on my shelf. I think he's so cute. And here's all the stuff that I made in this video. My little dudes, I'm so happy with them. I hope to see you guys next time. Love you, bye!